Hello BookTube, I'm Jonathan and welcome to Words in Time. Now in today's video I'm going to be talking about Recursion by Blake Crouch. Now I have reviewed Dark Matter, also by Blake Crouch, on the channel and I absolutely loved it, so I was very excited to start Recursion. So what is the premise? Well, in 2018 we follow one of our main characters, Barry, who is a New York City cop, and he encounters a woman that has false memory syndrome, which is a syndrome or a disease in which people experience false memories. They remember a life that supposedly never existed. It's an alternate reality, and they are referred to as fake memories. Now, nobody knows how these work, where they came from, why it's happening, and we also follow our second main character, Helena, in the year 2007. And she is a neuroscientist, and she is studying a cure for Alzheimer's. Now, as Barry follows this case, tries to track down the truth behind FMS, he learns that Helena might be the key to getting to the bottom of it. So, the structure of this book is we follow Barry and we follow Helena in alternating chapters. So a little bit like Holden and Miller in Leviathan Wakes, if you have read the first book in the Expanse series. Now, this structure worked for me. I liked it. I like going back and forth because I feel like I enjoyed both of the characters similarly. I was about equally interested in both of the storylines, so it worked. If you have a book with multiple POVs and you're like, yes, I love this person. Oh, she's great. I want to find out what happens with her. Oh man, this guy sucks. I hate this guy. Can we just skip this guy's chapter? It doesn't work as well, but these two were quite equally well done, so I didn't mind that. And I also felt like it helped with the pacing, kind of bouncing back and forth between the two, getting little nuggets as we go back and forth, and hopefully they all come together in the end. I won't spoil how, but this is woven together quite well. Now, as well as the structure, I wanted to talk about the characters. So obviously we have those two characters that we bounce back and forth between Barry and Helena. I feel like Barry, he was quite a competent cop. I felt like he had a good heart. I was somewhat invested in him, kind of rooting for him. He experiences something tragic at some point in his life, and I think after that, he doesn't let it just all necessarily go downhill. His life doesn't collapse, but he kind of settles into this rhythm, this pattern of kind of mediocrity, and he's more just existing than he is really living. So I found it interesting when this case comes along and it gives Barry something to live for. Now, Helena, I thought that she was very driven. She was very principled. She had her thoughts on things, and by gosh, she stuck to it, didn't she, Helena? So I liked her. I liked that she had a point of view. I was also rooting for Helena, but I felt like there could have been a bit more backstory, a bit more depth there, just for us to really kind of get on board with Helena and really care about all the twists and turns that her story takes. But I still liked Helena as a character as well. Now, as things start to come together, that's when I started to care a little bit more about them as people, because as we followed them in their individual chapters, I kind of cared more about the plot than them as characters, to be honest. But as things start to weave together, that's where I became a little bit more emotionally invested and started to care about the outcome of these people. Now, in my Dark Matter review, I didn't want to give away any spoilers. I was very careful not to mention anything that you wouldn't get from the back of the book, the blurb for Dark Matter. And both of these books kind of have a setup where there's a mystery in the beginning, and then around 50 to 100 pages in, we kind of get here's the real premise, here's the story that we're going to follow. And I didn't give that away for Dark Matter, but that ended up being my shortest video. There wasn't as much to talk about. So I'm definitely still not going to give any major spoilers for Recursion. Obviously won't tell you the ending or anything like that, but I will give you that hook that comes around 50 to 100 pages in. to see if you guys prefer that. That'll give you a little bit more information, a little bit much more for us to discuss, and maybe more for you to go off to decide whether this book is for you. And you guys can let me know in the comments which approach you prefer. I really appreciate the feedback. So what is that hook for Recursion? Well, it is time travel. Yes, this is a time travel story. One of my favorite premises, one of my favorite tropes, if you watch my science fiction tropes tier list, it was way up there. So I was definitely on board for that. And I won't explain how it works, but Blake Crouch does develop his own method for time travel, his own rules for time travel, and I was definitely very interested and intrigued as to how that worked, but it wasn't overly technical. I would say the science in this book is a little softer than that in Dark Matter. Both of them are science-driven plots and premises, but I wouldn't say either of them get bogged down in the science either. I think they're very readable. But if for whatever reason you're not particularly into that, if I had to recommend one of the two, I'd go with Recursion. I think it's a little softer on that front. So enjoyed them both in terms of the science, but if that's your preference, I'm just letting you know this might be the one to go for. So if it's not as focused on the science, what does it focus on? Well, the themes of time travel are very prevalent in Recursion. So if you had the opportunity to do it, would you do it? Why would you do it? Where would you travel to? Because there's obviously some pretty interesting things that we could all do with time travel, but should we do it? What are the consequences? And I think Recursion does a really good job of laying out both the potential and actual consequences for decisions made in the book. So it also asks, well, if you can time travel, who else should be able to time travel? You might think, well, I'm a good person. I'm not going to do anything bad with the ability to time travel. But some people might not be as scrupulous as you are. And if they get a hold of it, who else can get a hold of it? Could corporations get a hold of it? What would governments be able to do with it if they got a hold of it? And so on and so forth. So should anyone be able to time travel? Well, these are all questions that come up in the book, and not just interesting thematic questions. Blake Crouch does a great job of using them to drive the plot forward. This is paced really, really well. The writing from page to page is very snappy. Got to snap to convey the snappiness of it. You can hear the clicks as you turn the page. That's how snappy it is. But also the mini subplots. We kind of get little elements that are introduced, resolved, and each time Blake Crouch does it, he manages to up the stakes. You just get more and more excited. It just gets more and more exciting as the adventure continues, and that was a strength of Dark Matter that definitely continues in Recursion. So, talking a little bit about the ending, obviously not getting into specifics, but just generally, I felt like the narrative really accelerated and built to something exciting, and also quite an impactful emotional conclusion. I did end up really caring what happened to the characters. My only minor gripe with the ending was that there was a rule established earlier in the book that ended up being a bit of a red herring, and I didn't think that was necessarily the most creative or clever way to get to the resolution, but when we did get there, I did enjoy it and it did work for me. So something else that I wanted to talk about was a little comparison to Dark Matter, because there's this strange thing that I've kind of seen online, where I've seen a lot of comments along the lines of, I really enjoyed Dark Matter, but Recursion wasn't for me, or Recursion's one of my favorites, but I hated Dark Matter. And to be honest, I find this quite a peculiar phenomenon, because I think both of them have a similar style, both of them similar writing, and I think the quality of both is quite similar too. So I'm not sure what this divide is coming from. If you feel that way about the books, let me know why one of them hit and why one of them didn't. I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts. But yeah, that's not something you see in a lot of other fandoms within similar works. I mean, it's natural to have a preference. I slightly prefer one over the other, but take the Beatles, for instance. You see a lot of comments along the lines of, yeah, I like Sgt. Pepper's more than Abbey Road. But you rarely see, I love Sgt. Pepper's and I hate Abbey Road. I don't know what Abbey Road did to you. Don't know what Recursion or Dark Matter did to you if you didn't like it as much, but there you go. Don't let that deter you. If you've picked up one and you liked it, don't let that stop you from reading the other, because I think the odds are pretty good that you'll like it too. So bringing this all together, what is my rating? What are my final thoughts on Recursion? Well, I was intrigued by the ideas. I absolutely loved the pacing and how the story unfolded. I somewhat liked the characters, and I was pretty satisfied by the ending. It didn't quite reach the heights of Dark Matter for me, which I absolutely loved, but this is still a hit from Blake Crouch. I think he's done it again. He's written something I think a lot of people are going to enjoy. I enjoyed it a lot. For me, it's an 8.5 out of 10. So, thoroughly enjoyed it. Nearly one of my favorite books of the year. We'll see when I do my end of year rank where this one places, where Dark Matter places. And because of these two, I'm definitely interested in picking up his Wayward Pines series at some point in the near future as well. If you have read that, let me know how high I should place that on the TBR list. Are you a Blake Crouch and Wayward Pines fan? So there you go, guys. Those are my thoughts on Recursion by Blake Crouch. Get down in the comments, let me know if you enjoyed it, if you've read it, and if you haven't read it, does this sound like a type of book that you want to pick up? Did I sell you on it? As always, guys, I really appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe, because as always, there's more sci-fi content coming soon.